the American dream. A phrase imbued with hope, aspiration, and the promise of a better life. For generations, it has beckoned people from all walks of life. It's the picture of a family gathered around a dinner table, laughter echoing through a spacious home. This dream is more than just material possessions. It's about the freedom to pursue one's passions and provide a brighter future for one's children. A vision intertwined with the fabric of American identity. But as we navigate the complexities of the 21st century, a question arises: is this cherished dream fading into history? Are the promises of prosperity slipping out of reach for everyday Americans? The economic realities of today paint a starkly different picture. The traditional markers of the American dream seem increasingly elusive. The gap between the haves and the have-nots widens, leaving many struggling to stay afloat. The once clear path to prosperity has become shrouded in uncertainty. The rungs on the ladder of opportunity seem further apart, making the climb feel insurmountable. The notion of success through determination is being questioned. The signs of this struggle are all around us. Families work multiple jobs, their dreams fading. The forces shaping this economic landscape are complex and multifaceted. Globalization, technological advancements, and shifting social structures have all played a part in reshaping the American dream. While these forces have brought about undeniable progress in many areas, they have also created new challenges and exacerbated existing inequalities. The rise of automation and artificial intelligence, while holding the promise of increased efficiency and innovation, also threatens to displace workers in a wide range of industries. The gig economy, often touted for its flexibility and entrepreneurial spirit, often lacks the stability, benefits, and protections that were once hallmarks of traditional employment. And the relentless pursuit of corporate profits, at times at the expense of worker well-being and environmental sustainability, has eroded the social contract that once bound businesses and communities together. These shifts have not gone unnoticed. Across the political spectrum, there is a growing recognition that the American dream is in jeopardy, even if there is no consensus on how to address it. The question is no longer whether the dream is attainable for all, but rather, what can be done to ensure that it remains within reach for future generations. The challenges we face are significant, but they are not insurmountable. The American spirit of innovation and resilience has overcome adversity before. Our task is to redefine the American dream for the 21st century. This requires a collective effort from government, businesses, and communities. We must invest in education and job training programs. Addressing income inequality is crucial. The American dream's core tenets remain relevant. It is up to us to ensure it serves as a beacon of hope. To understand the current state of the American dream, we must first journey back in time to an era that continues to hold a powerful grip on the American psyche: the decades following World War II. Emerging from the ashes of global conflict, the United States stood as a beacon of hope and opportunity, its industrial might intact, its spirit unbroken. The war effort had ignited a collective sense of purpose and unity, forging a generation tempered by hardship and united by a common goal. As soldiers returned home, eager to rebuild their lives and contribute to the burgeoning peacetime economy, a palpable sense of optimism pervaded the nation. Factories that had once churned out tanks and airplanes were retooled to produce consumer goods for a public hungry for normalcy and eager to embrace the comforts of peacetime life. The GI Bill, a landmark piece of legislation, provided returning veterans with access to education, home loans, and other benefits, laying the foundation for an unprecedented expansion of the middle class. The 1950s and 1960s witnessed an economic boom unlike anything the nation had ever seen. Fueled by technological advancements, pent-up consumer demand, and a surge in new family formation, the American economy hummed along at a robust pace. Jobs were plentiful, wages were rising, and the standard of living for many Americans soared to new heights. Manufacturing jobs, once concentrated in a handful of cities, spread to new regions of the country, creating opportunities for upward mobility and drawing people from rural communities and overseas in search of a better life. The suburbs, with their promise of spacious homes, manicured lawns and good schools, became the ultimate symbol of middle-class aspiration. This was a time when the American dream felt tantalizingly within reach for a significant segment of the population. A high school diploma could secure a good-paying job in a factory or office, allowing a single breadwinner to support a family and purchase a home. The idea of upward mobility, of working one's way up from humble beginnings to a comfortable middle-class existence, was more than just a distant dream. It was a reality for millions of Americans. The growth of the middle class during this period was nothing short of remarkable. Fueled by rising wages, affordable housing and access to education, a new generation of Americans entered the middle rungs of the socio-economic ladder, bringing with them a deep belief in the promise of hard work and the possibility of achieving upward mobility. This burgeoning middle class became the engine of the American economy, driving consumer spending, fueling innovation, and creating a virtuous cycle of growth and prosperity. Their purchasing power fueled the demand for cars, appliances, and other consumer goods, which in turn created more jobs and further stimulated the economy. Unions, once relegated to the fringes of the labor movement, gained prominence during this period, advocating for workers' rights, securing better wages and benefits, and contributing to a more equitable distribution of the economic pie. The social contract between labor and capital seemed to be holding strong, with corporations recognizing the importance of a well-compensated workforce and workers feeling a sense of loyalty to their employers. This delicate balance, however, would not last forever. The American dream during this era was not without its flaws and contradictions. The prosperity of the post-war boom was not enjoyed equally by all Americans. Racial discrimination and segregation continued to plague many parts of the country, denying equal opportunities to African Americans and other minority groups. Women, while playing a vital role in the workforce during the war, often found themselves relegated to lower-paying jobs and societal expectations that limited their opportunities. Despite these challenges, the American dream, at least for a significant portion of the population, seemed attainable. It was a time when a college education, while not yet universal, was increasingly accessible, with tuition costs at a fraction of what they are today. Homeownership, a cornerstone of the American dream, was within reach for many working-class families, thanks in part to government-backed mortgages and a housing market that had not yet reached the exorbitant levels we see today. The future seemed bright, full of promise, and the potential for continued progress. The American dream, once a distant aspiration for many, had become a tangible reality for a generation that had witnessed firsthand the transformative power of hard work and determination. Beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic era, however, seeds of change were being sown. The very forces that had propelled the post-war boom, globalization, technological advancement, and shifting social norms, would eventually contribute to a gradual unraveling of the economic certainties that had come to define the American dream. As corporations sought to maximize profits in an increasingly competitive global marketplace, they began to explore ways to reduce labor costs. Manufacturing jobs, once the backbone of the American middle class, began to migrate overseas where labor was cheaper and regulations were less stringent. The seeds of doubt were planted, a subtle but growing unease that the American dream, while still attainable for some, might be slipping out of reach for others. The post-war boom, while undeniably transformative, had also sown the seeds of its own eventual decline, setting in motion a series of economic and social shifts that would reshape the American landscape for decades to come. The 1970s marked a turning point in the American economic narrative. The seemingly unstoppable engine of post-war prosperity began to sputter, and the cracks in the foundation of the American dream, long obscured by decades of growth, began to widen. The very forces that had fueled the boom years, globalization, technological advancement, and shifting demographics, now conspired to create new challenges and exacerbate existing inequalities. The rise of globalization, while opening up new markets for American goods and services, also brought with it increased competition from overseas manufacturers who could produce goods at a fraction of the cost. American factories, once bustling hubs of employment, began to close their doors, unable to compete with the low wages and lax environmental regulations of their foreign counterparts. The decline of manufacturing jobs, once a reliable pathway to middle-class stability, had a ripple effect throughout the economy. Towns and cities that had relied heavily on manufacturing found themselves struggling to adapt, their economies hollowed out, their residents grappling with unemployment and a growing sense of uncertainty about the future. As manufacturing jobs disappeared, so too did the wages that had once sustained a comfortable middle-class lifestyle. Workers who were fortunate enough to find new employment often found themselves in lower-paying service sector jobs, without the benefits or job security that had been the hallmark of the post-war era. The gap between the rich and the poor, which had been steadily narrowing during the post-war boom, began to widen at an alarming rate. The top earners in the economy, those in finance, technology, and other high-skilled professions, continued to see their incomes rise, while the wages of those in the middle and lower tiers stagnated or even declined. This divergence in economic fortunes had a profound impact on the American social fabric. The middle class, once the bedrock of American society, found itself squeezed from both ends, struggling to keep up with the rising costs of housing, healthcare, and education, while also facing increased competition for jobs and opportunities. The American dream has always been inextricably linked to the idea of homeownership. For generations, owning a home represented not just a place to live but a tangible symbol of security, stability, and achievement. But as the economic landscape shifted, the dream of homeownership became increasingly out of reach for many Americans. The cost of housing, particularly in desirable urban areas and suburbs, began to skyrocket, driven by a combination of factors, including limited supply, increased demand from a growing population, and speculation by investors. Wages, meanwhile, failed to keep pace with these rising costs, making it increasingly difficult for working-class families to afford a down payment on a home, let alone keep up with monthly mortgage payments. This housing crunch had a cascading effect on other aspects of the American dream. Families who were priced out of homeownership were often forced to rent, which meant allocating a larger portion of their income to housing costs, leaving them with less disposable income for other essentials, such as healthcare, education, and retirement savings. Education has long been hailed as the great equalizer, the key to unlocking opportunity and achieving upward mobility. But as the cost of college tuition soared, far outpacing the rate of inflation, the dream of a college education became increasingly burdensome for many American families. The rising cost of college tuition was driven by a complex interplay of factors, including decreased state funding for public universities, increased demand for a college degree in a competitive job market, and rising administrative costs. To make matters worse, the availability of easy-to-obtain student loans meant that many students were graduating with mountains of debt, a financial burden that would follow them for years to come. This student debt crisis had a chilling effect on the American dream. Young people saddled with tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt were delaying major life milestones, such as buying a home, getting married, and starting a family. The financial burden of student loan debt became a drag on the economy, as young people with less disposable income were less likely to make large purchases, start businesses, or invest in their futures. The American middle class is shrinking due to economic pressures. The American dream is evolving with new pathways to success. Corporate practices have reshaped the American workforce and economy. Automation and AI present both challenges and opportunities. The gig economy offers flexibility but lacks job stability. Corporate profit pursuits have profound human and community costs. Success now includes entrepreneurship, remote work, and well-being. Homeownership is increasingly out of reach for many Americans. Homeownership is challenged by gig work, debt, and investors. The consequences of this evolving housing landscape are far-reaching. For those who are priced out of homeownership, the dream of putting down roots, building equity, and achieving a sense of financial security can seem increasingly elusive. Renters, who often face rising rents and the uncertainty of lease renewals, may find it challenging to save for a down payment or plan for the future. The lack of affordable housing options can also force families to make difficult choices, such as living in overcrowded conditions, moving further away from job centers, or sacrificing other essential needs, such as healthcare or education, to make ends meet. The housing affordability crisis has also exacerbated existing inequalities. Communities of color, which have historically faced discrimination in housing and lending practices, are disproportionately impacted by rising housing costs. The lack of affordable housing options can perpetuate cycles of poverty, limit access to quality education and healthcare, and stifle economic mobility for generations. The dream of homeownership, once a symbol of opportunity and achievement, risks becoming a marker of privilege, further dividing communities and undermining the promise of the American dream. Renting has become a more permanent reality for many, offering flexibility but also presenting challenges. It provides freedom to pursue opportunities without the constraints of a mortgage. However, renting means relinquishing control and foregoing equity. Renters face rent increases, evictions, and lease uncertainties. The viability of renting as a pathway to the American dream is complex. The erosion of the American dream, the increasing difficulty of achieving upward mobility and financial security, is not simply a matter of bad luck or individual shortcomings. It's the result of systemic shifts, a tilting of the playing field that has benefited a select few at the expense of the many. The question of who's responsible for this state of affairs is complex and fraught with ideological baggage, but a clear-eyed assessment requires examining the role of powerful institutions and the policies that have shaped the economic landscape. The American dream, at its core, rests on the idea of a fair shot, the belief that hard work, ingenuity, and a bit of luck can lead to a better life. But when the rules of the game are rigged, when the system itself favors those who already hold an advantage, the dream becomes increasingly out of reach for those struggling to get ahead. The concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a select few, the erosion of worker protections, the influence of money in politics, these are not isolated phenomena, but rather interconnected symptoms of a system that has strayed from its founding principles of fairness and opportunity for all. Corporations, the engines of innovation and economic growth, also bear a significant responsibility for the current state of the American dream. The relentless pursuit of profit maximization, often at the expense of worker well-being and long-term societal interests, has contributed to the very trends that are undermining the dream's attainability. The shift towards prioritizing shareholder value above all else has led to a short-term focus, where quarterly earnings reports and stock prices trump concerns about job security, wage growth, and community well-being. Outsourcing, automation, and the suppression of worker bargaining power have all become tools in the pursuit of ever-increasing profits, often with devastating consequences for American workers and communities. The influence of corporate lobbying on government policies further amplifies these trends. Tax cuts for corporations and the wealthy, deregulation of industries, and the weakening of labor protections have all served to concentrate wealth and power at the top. while leaving ordinary Americans with fewer resources and opportunities. The revolving door between government and the corporate world, where executives and lobbyists move seamlessly between the public and private sectors, raises concerns about conflicts of interest and the undue influence of corporate money in shaping policies that directly impact the lives of millions of Americans. Corporations, the engines of innovation and economic growth, also bear a significant responsibility for the current state of the American dream. The relentless pursuit of profit maximization, often at the expense of worker well-being and long-term societal interests, has contributed to the very trends that are undermining the dream's attainability. The role of government in shaping the American dream is a subject of intense debate. On the one hand, government policies such as the GI Bill, Social Security, and investments in education and infrastructure have played a pivotal role in expanding opportunity and creating the conditions for upward mobility. On the other hand, government policies can also exacerbate inequality, stifle innovation, and create barriers to opportunity. Tax policies that favor the wealthy, deregulation that allows corporations to externalize costs onto society, and cuts to social safety net programs all contribute to a widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. The question of whether government is a bystander or an accomplice in the erosion of the American dream depends on one's political perspective and the specific policies under scrutiny. What is clear, however, is that government plays a crucial role in shaping the economic landscape, and its actions or inaction have a profound impact on the ability of individuals and families to achieve their dreams. Section 4, 2008, The Cracks Widen. The 2008 financial crisis exposed deep cracks in the American dream, revealing the consequences of economic policies favoring Wall Street over Main Street. Millions lost homes, savings, and jobs due to reckless lending and lax regulation. Government bailouts for banks fueled public anger and distrust. The crisis highlighted the need for greater accountability and fairness in our economic system. Section 1. The American Dream, Requiem or Reinvention. So is the American dream dead? The American dream faces unprecedented challenges. Economic realities make prosperity harder to achieve. Yet the dream is not dead, but transforming. New approaches and solutions are needed. Section 2. Charting a new course. The challenges are real, but so too are the opportunities. We must forge a new path forward, acknowledging the realities of the 21st century while staying true to core values of fairness and opportunity. Investing in education and job training programs is paramount. Focusing on STEM education, fostering digital literacy, and promoting lifelong learning. Addressing the student debt crisis and making college more affordable are essential steps. Creating a more equitable tax system is crucial. Strengthening worker protections and promoting collective bargaining rights can ensure workers have a voice. Section 3. A dream deferred or a dream renewed. The American dream is a work in progress. It reflects our aspirations, struggles, and belief in a better future. The path forward requires bold action and challenging entrenched systems. What form will the American dream take in the 21st century? Will it be a dream deferred or renewed? The choice is ours to make. The time for action is now.